Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'm going to discuss what I think are the major points from the first weekend of the Labour Party conference. I know it's still going to go on. I'm not expecting to do any more videos on it, but there was enough chaos over the weekend for me to discuss that first. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, sore throat still. So I'm going to do this unscripted because I'll just hope that I don't waffle on too much. Now, there was good and bad out of this conference. I'll go through the good really quickly because it's very easy to explain, and the bad I really want to discuss. The good is that certain things have been voted for by conference. For example, the independent complaints handling, in particular related to racism in the party. The main focus has been on anti-Semitism. It applies just as much to Islamophobia in the party as well. So the process is now going to be independent. The Labour leadership is going to have nothing whatsoever to do with it. This was opposed by, obviously, the racists in the party, but it has gone through. That was the good news. There are some other good ones as well. But then Keir Starmer put forward a motion to change the way future leadership elections are done. This was, and this is what gets me as well. It's like, whether you agree or disagree, it was just a stupid thing to do. Right now, it was a stupid thing to do. And so I was on Max Robespierre's stream on Friday when actually all this chaos was kicking off on Friday, and someone said to me, what do you mean about Labour should pick their battles? So I've said this in the past, they need to pick their battles. Well, I'll tell you what I mean by that. When it came to this conference, they can't think that the general election is going to be in 2023 or 2024. It could be this November. I'm not saying it's likely. It could be this November. They have to treat every conference as if it's the one getting ready for an election. And that means every motion you put to conference has to achieve two aims. First of all, it has to get you more gains than losses. Let's be honest, if it's a battle, and rules changes are always a battle, you need more wins than gains. What did Starmer win from this? Nothing at all. This may be of benefit to his successor. It doesn't benefit him at all. And more importantly, it doesn't benefit Labour right now at all. You can argue in the future, not right now. The second thing is you must be able to win. Do not fight a battle you cannot win. And he'd gone into the conference with this idea of sweeping rules changes for the leadership elections. Oh, there's sweeping changes. I mean, it's really going back to what it used to be. And he had a meeting with union leaders, representatives on Friday, and they went, no. And I'm thinking to myself, do you mean to tell me you've gone to conference with these proposals and you haven't even talked to it about the people who can yay or nay it? Because with the Labour Party conference, bear in mind, the members don't matter at all. The members do not matter a fig. You know, he got support from the members. It was the unions who were opposed to this. If the unions act as one, they will sink it. People are now moaning at the Unison union because he had to water his plans down. They backed the watered down plans, but they wouldn't have backed the other ones. He'd have lost it. Don't go into a conference with a motion that you're going to lose. You know, if it's really important, if it meets the first criterion about getting you real proper gains, then you can risk a possible loss. You can risk a tight vote, but not one you're definitely going to lose. And the real issue I have with this is it's naive. It's not that, because at the end of the day, he got away with it. But it's a bit like the by-elections earlier this year. They didn't need to have that by-election in Hartlepool. They didn't need to have that. They could have managed that differently. They didn't need to have the by-election in Batley-on-Spen. Okay, they won that one, and that was good. And in the end, that was a good result. But it was risky, and he didn't need to risk it. And that's what gets me. It's the naivety of fighting battles you don't need to fight. Angela Rayner, she was upset because she was opening conference, and this was overshadowing her big speech. In the event, I don't think it did. It was reported anyway. But she's an unnecessary conflict is how she described it. She's dead right. Do not engage in unnecessary conflict, especially with people on your own side. Bloody stupid. Then there was the interview on Andrew Marr yesterday. That was his big chance. At the end of the day, see, I'm not even going to talk about his speech. Hasn't happened yet. I don't care what's in the speech. I really don't care. No one's going to listen to it. The people there will listen to it. Some of them will be receptive to it. Some of them won't. It's a few little sound. It's a speech that goes on for like 40 minutes or so. The odd little line will come out of it. It'll be interesting to go over it for policies. But at the end of the day, no one's going to look at it. This huge essay is written last week or published last week. No one's going to read that. No, I don't care about that. What I care about is what's reported. In the Andrew Marr interview, he had a chance to really get something reported. He made a few cock-ups. First of all, it's like he goes into those with damage limitation. Do it the other way around. Andrew Marr, you know full well, Andrew Marr is a Tory mouthpiece. He gives Conservative MPs an easy ride. He doesn't ask them awkward questions. And yet he asks unreasonable questions of Labour MPs, not least the Labour leader. Go on the attack. He's your opponent. Go on the attack. For example, Andrew Marr asked a transphobic question. He was asking about, is it wrong for people to say only women have a cervix? And Starmer tried to answer, was saying it was wrong, but he was very clumsy in his explanation. I'd have gone on the attack. My opening gambit, I'd have expected to answer it, but my opening gambit would have been, why are you wasting time with transphobic dog whistling? And he'd have looked all innocent. What are we on about? You know as well as I do that a trans man has a cervix, right? But you're just engaging in bigoted dog whistling. Would you like to engage in some more bigoted dog whistling? Would you like to ask me if all lives matter? Would you like to ask me if it's all right to ask a black man if he likes bananas? Or would you like to stop the bigoted dog whistling and ask me questions about how a Labour government is going to clear up the mess that this Conservative government has been dumping on us for over 10 years now? Go on the attack. That would have been reported. That would have been reported. That's what he needs to do. And Maximilian Robespierre in his stream on Friday was saying, does Starmer need to drop an F-bomb to get people to sit up? I don't think he needs to do something like that. Don't do something that's not you, right? But you can do something to make people sit up and take notice. Then there was the Daily Telegraph, I think it is now picking at a supposed row between Starmer and Rayner. And this is caused because he also asked Rayner about the Tory scum thing. She's refusing to apologise. Fair enough. And Andrew Marr was saying that. Now, Starmer didn't say that Rayner should have to apologise, but he did say that he basically alludes to the fact she shouldn't have said it. No, don't do that. People were pointing out what happened when John Prescott punched that person, who deserved it, by the way. But he punched a fella and who assaulted him, let's be honest. And Tony Blair was asked about this when he was Prime Minister, and he just laughed it off. He says, well, that's John. John is John. He should have said the same thing. In fact, he could have still gone on the attack with that. He could have said, well, it's not the word I would use, but that's Angela. But don't you think it's a scummy thing to do to take food off hungry children? Turn it back. And the thing is, it's just the naivety of it. It's like, Keir Starmer is absolutely brilliant in Prime Minister's questions. And it's obvious as well. People go, he is. He's a peerless master at it. Of course he is. He was the former top prosecutor in the country. He's going to be brilliant at putting criminals under the cosh. So he has an easy time with Boris Johnson most of the time, even though he doesn't answer the questions and there's no judge forcing him to. Doesn't matter. He's a master at it. But interviews, he really needs to work on that. I mean, that was a shambles. If this is the last conference before the general election, we'd better hope there's going to be an electoral pact because, my goodness, we're going to need it. And that's what gets me about it. And it's not like the conference is a complete disaster. These disasters that I talk about aren't going to register in most. The people they need to attract are swing voters. They're not even going to know much about this. Yeah, I looked at the front pages this morning. Do you know what? There's that little bit of a thing about Rayner. That's it. There was no great fanfare about the arguments over the leadership contest rules changes or the anti-Semitism issue. Or even that girl, that was another stupid thing. A girl asking him questions about environmental policies. Now, granted, she was trying to do it, she was an anti-Starmer Labour member. But it doesn't matter. All she was doing is asking questions, and he just blanked her. And it's on film. It's like, oh, for goodness sake, just answer her questions. Just talk to her. She at the end of the day, she just wants to talk about the Green New Deal. Well, talk to her about Labour's environmental policies then. Just talk to her about them. You only have to talk to her while you're crossing the road and then everyone understands you're on your way somewhere. Easy. Such naivety, it really gets me. But it's not that, as I say, the things that will really matter are, some people were saying about, that were opposed to these leadership elections, the rules changes, sorry. Oh yeah, Labour should be focusing on presenting their agenda and stuff like that. They did. There are now policies on everything. If anyone tries to say, well, I don't know what Labour's position is on this, this and this, it's like, well, that's just because you haven't read it then, because it has now been set out. Over the next couple of days, more will be set out. They now have policies. At the end of this conference, the policies are now there. If anyone says to me, I don't know their policy on this, I could look it up or even know and tell them. So that's fine. Some of the policies are pretty good as well, but I'm not going to do a video on that because at the end of the day, there's two types of policy. There's the type of policy that is going to win you votes. They need 2 or 3 of those. They need 2 or 3. You can't have more than that. Then there's the rest of your policies. They don't matter. They do matter when you're in government, don't get me wrong, but they don't matter. The party members feel they're very important. But it's like, and that's another thing about conference in general. First of all, why is it that you have these important motions voted on, but members don't? I didn't get a vote. You have to be there to have the vote on it. That's not right. And secondly, you had people going up, and you'll still have people going up and saying, I think Labour's position on this issue should be this. It's like, why? They're not in government. And I really wish Labour Party members would switch modes between being in opposition and being in government. What you say, what you urge the Labour Party to do in government is totally different to in opposition. In government, they've got influence. Even power if you're talking about domestic policy. In opposition, none at all. It's like, I think Labour's position on this should be this. Do you? Great. Why? Especially if it's on foreign policy, because then it's like, well, even in government, they may not be able to influence that. But anyway, those are my thoughts. From my point of view as a Labour member, basically a disaster, certainly a missed opportunity. That interview was the worst of all for me. That was worse than the internal battles at the conference that only really are noticeable by people in the party. But a missed opportunity is still unforgivable at this stage when we potentially could be putting Boris Johnson under a lot of pressure. He'll go to his party conference next week now, chipper. But those are my thoughts anyway. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. Hope it didn't go on too long. I don't actually know. And if you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.